Hi there, welcome to Lamlam's audiobook novel channel. Today's story is titled, Bound to the Billionaire. Chapter 1. The Collision. Morning rush at Gracie's diner was always a battlefield. Plates clattered, the espresso machine hissed like it was ready to explode, and customers barked orders as if Aria Coles had 8 arms instead of 2. By 8:15 a.m., her apron was stained with syrup, her hair had escaped its bun, and the ache in her feet told her she'd been running on caffeine and fumes for far too long. She balanced a pot of fresh coffee in one hand, notepad tucked against her hip, weaving between tables with the grace of someone who'd been doing this too long. The corner booth was different today. It wasn't occupied by truck drivers or college kids on hangovers. It was a wall of suits. Sleek, black, custom-fitted. Watches that could pay her rent for 6 months. Phones laid flat on the table like loaded guns. And at the head of the table sat him, Lucien Sterling. Even Aria, who paid zero attention to Wall Street gossip, knew that face. Billionaire, CEO of Sterling Global, ruthless dealmaker. The kind of man who could buy the diner just to shut it down if the eggs weren't to his liking. He looked like sin carved into sharp lines and dark steel. Midnight black suit, tailored to perfection, shirt pressed within an inch of its life, tie knotted so crisp it could have cut glass. His hair was dark, swept back, not a strand out of place. His eyes, though icy gray, unreadable, scanned everything with a predator's calm. He didn't belong in her diner. And yet here he was, dominating the corner booth like a king tolerating a peasant's table. Aria swallowed, grabbed her coffee pot tighter and approached. "Refill?" she asked, keeping her tone polite but clipped. Lucien didn't look up at her. Didn't even acknowledge her voice. He kept talking numbers to the suits around him, his tone low and commanding. She rolled her eyes and reached forward anyway, pouring coffee into the empty cup nearest him. That was when disaster struck. Her sneaker slid on a slick patch of orange juice on the floor. Her wrist jerked, the pot tipped, and hot coffee spilled, not into the cup, not onto the table, but straight across Lucien Sterling's pristine white shirt. The diner went silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Somewhere someone sucked in a breath. Aria's eyes went wide as the dark liquid spread across his chest and down into his lap. "Oh shit." Lucien froze. Then slowly, deliberately, his head turned toward her. His eyes, pale steel, locked onto hers with lethal precision. "Do you even know what the word careful means?" His voice was smooth, but it had the kind of weight that could crush lesser people. Aria's stomach dropped. Her brain screamed apologize, apologize. But her mouth, traitorous as always, chose violence. "Well," she said sweetly, napkin forgotten in her hand. "Considering I'm on my second double shift this week, and I just dodged a tray of pancakes, you'll have to forgive me if my Olympic-level grace isn't up to your standards." One of the suits choked on his eggs. Another stared like she'd just slapped the Pope. Lucien's brows arched, his expression hardening. "Do you always run your mouth when you screw up, or am I just lucky?" Aria blinked, then tilted her head, crossing her arms over her chest. "I don't usually waste my apologies on men who talk to me like I'm gum on the bottom of their $5,000 shoes. So yes, congratulations. You're special." Gasps rippled around the booth. No one talked to Lucien Sterling like that. The billionaire's jaw tightened. But instead of exploding, instead of calling the manager and having her fired on the spot, he leaned back slowly, his lips curved. Not into a smile, not fully, but into something sharp and amused. He slid out of the booth, his ruined shirt clinging to the lines of his chest, and stepped close enough for her to smell him. Expensive cologne undercut with coffee. "You've just made an enemy you can't afford, waitress." Her heart skipped, but her mouth curved into a smirk to match his. "Guess I'll add that to my tab." Lucien's eyes flickered, the barest spark of intrigue breaking through his icy mask. He turned, buttoning his suit jacket over the stain, and walked out without another word. His men scrambled after him, leaving their untouched plates behind. Aria stood rooted in place, the coffee pot still dangling from her hand, her pulse thundering. "What an arrogant ass," she muttered. From the booth behind her, a regular leaned over. "Sweetheart, do you know who that was?" She rolled her eyes. "A jackass with a superiority complex." The man snorted. "That was Lucien Sterling." Aria froze, then laughed under her breath. "Figures." Minutes later, Lucien sat in the back of his sleek black limo, shirt discarded, chest bare as he dabbed at the spreading stain. His driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Where to, sir?" Lucien ignored him, eyes fixed on the diner window where Aria was laughing off her co-workers' teasing, fire still in her gaze. Dangerous amusement flickered across his face as he leaned back, the corners of his mouth finally tugging upward. "Who the hell is she?" Chapter 2. The Offer. The breakfast rush had slowed, but Aria was still running ragged. The smell of fried bacon clung to her apron, her ponytail was sliding loose again, and she was halfway through wiping down a sticky table when the bell over the diner door chimed. She didn't even look up at first, just called out automatically, "Seat yourself, I'll be right there." Then she heard the hush. The low murmur of conversation died. The air shifted, heavy with the weight of someone important entering a place that didn't usually see important people. Slowly, Aria lifted her head and nearly dropped the rag in her hand. Lucien Sterling stood just inside the door, dark suit tailored to perfection, hair swept immaculately back, gray eyes cutting across the diner like a blade. Alone this time. No entourage, no suits following at his heel. Just him. And God help her, he looked even more dangerous than yesterday. Every regular in the diner turned to stare. The truckers by the window went silent. The old ladies clutching their tea mugs whispered behind their hands, and even her manager peeked out from the kitchen like a nervous rabbit. Lucien's gaze swept over the room and landed directly on her. Aria swallowed hard, forcing her pulse to settle. "Table for one," she called out dryly. A few customers chuckled nervously, like they couldn't believe she was addressing him like anyone else. Lucien's lips curved faintly as he stepped toward her. His stride smooth and deliberate. He didn't sit. He didn't order. He simply closed the distance between them, until his shadow stretched across the counter. "Miss Cole." His voice was calm, deep, and threaded with that dangerous authority that made people obey without question. Aria arched a brow, rag still in hand. "Mr. Sterling. Back for another coffee shower. I promise today's brew is extra hot." A ripple of shocked laughter passed through the diner. Someone actually coughed to hide their amusement. Lucien's eyes narrowed, but instead of snapping, he leaned against the counter, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You're the first person in a long time who hasn't tried to kiss my ass. That makes you interesting." Aria blinked. "Wow, what a compliment. Should I frame it?" He ignored the jab. "I have an offer for you." That got her attention. She crossed her arms, suspicious. "If you're here to buy the diner just to fire me, you'll have to wait until payday. I need to make rent first." Lucien's lips twitched. "I don't want the diner. I want you." Her jaw dropped before she could stop it. A couple sitting in the corner gasped audibly. She sputtered, "Excuse me." Lucien's eyes gleamed with cool amusement. "Relax. Not like that. I want you to work for me. As my personal assistant." Aria laughed so hard she nearly bent double. "You've got to be kidding. You came all the way down here in your $1 million suit to offer me a job? Me? A waitress?" Lucien didn't so much as blink. "Outrageous salary. Full benefits. Driver. Penthouse accommodation if you require it. More money in a week than you make here in 6 months." The diner had gone silent again, every set of ears tuned in. Aria's laughter died. She stared at him like he'd grown 2 heads. "Oh, I get it. This is some kind of rich boy joke, isn't it? You spill coffee on me, I insult you. Now you think it's funny to mock me with fairy tale job offers." Lucien's tone sharpened. Does this look like a joke? He slid a sleek black folder from his jacket, laid it flat on the counter between them, and tapped it once with his long fingers. Aria didn't even touch it. Why? Why me? You probably have 100 polished Ivy League interns lined up, all dying to serve you lattes and polish your shoes. Lucien leaned closer, his presence suffocating in the best and worst ways. Because they bore me. Because they tell me what I want to hear. Because they flinch and bow and scrape. You. His gaze pinned hers. You don't hesitate to put me in my place. That's real. That's rare. And I don't let rare things slip through my fingers. Her throat went dry, but she forced herself to scoff. Wow. You really know how to flatter a girl. Compare her to an exotic collectible. His lips curved. If the shoe fits. Aria pushed the folder back toward him. Sorry, Sterling. I'm not interested in being another one of your lackeys. Lucien straightened, unbothered by her refusal. He tapped the folder once more, leaving it on the counter. When you're tired of scraping pennies and serving coffee, call me. My number's inside. He turned without another word, his polished shoes clicking against the diner's worn tile as he strode to the door. The bell jingled as he left, the sound almost mocking. Aria stared at the folder, her chest heaving. Her co-workers whispered behind her. Her manager looked like he was about to faint, and the regulars gawked like she'd just been proposed to. With a huff, she snatched the folder off the counter and shoved it under the register. Out of sight, out of mind. But even as she scrubbed the counter harder than necessary, her hands trembled, because she could still hear his voice echoing in her head. You don't hesitate to put me in my place. That's rare. And the worst part. Some traitorous part of her wanted to open that folder. Chapter 3. The struggle. God, he's insufferable. Aria slammed 2 mugs of coffee down onto Liam's chipped kitchen table, nearly sloshing one over the rim. Her best friend raised an eyebrow, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. That bad, huh? He asked, sipping. Aria flopped into the opposite chair, kicking off her shoes with a groan. He came back to the diner, alone this time, walked in like he owned the place, which, knowing him, he probably tried to buy it before sitting down. Liam smirked. Lucien Sterling. The devil in Armani. What did he want? Another coffee bath? Her cheeks heated. No, worse. He offered me a job. Liam almost choked on his drink. A what? A job. His personal assistant. She waved a hand dramatically. With a ridiculous salary, benefits, penthouse suite. The whole Cinderella package, minus the fairy godmother. He set down his mug, blinking at her. And you said? I said no. Aria snapped, leaning back in her chair with her arms crossed. Do you think I want to spend my days fetching sparkling water and pretending not to notice when he glares holes through people? Please. Liam chuckled, shaking his head. Only you, Aria. Most people would sell their left kidney to work for a man like that. Then let them. I'd rather scrub floors with a toothbrush than be that man's lapdog. She tried to sound firm, but her voice cracked on the last word. Because underneath her righteous indignation, her stomach was tied in knots. And Liam, of course, saw right through her. He leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. You sure about that? Because last I checked, you're 2 months behind on rent, your car sounds like it's about to die, and your boss still hasn't given you that raise he promised. Aria's shoulders slumped. Don't remind me. As if on cue, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She groaned, pulling it out. A text from her landlord glared up at her in bold letters. Rent due by Friday or I start the eviction process. Her stomach dropped. Liam's brows furrowed as he read her expression. What is it? Landlord, she muttered, tossing the phone onto the table like it had burned her. He's serious this time. I don't have it, Liam. I've been scraping tips just to keep the lights on. Silence stretched between them. The weight of it pressed on her chest, heavier than the tray she'd dropped yesterday. Finally, Liam said softly, "Maybe you should think about it. Just think." Aria shot him a look. "Whose side are you on?" "Yours," he said firmly. "Always yours. Which is why I'm saying this. Sometimes pride doesn't pay the bills. Sometimes you gotta bite the bullet." She wanted to argue. God, she wanted to. But her throat closed up instead. 'Cause he was right. She hated that he was right. Lucien Sterling. Even saying his name in her head made her want to roll her eyes into the next century. He was arrogant, infuriating, smug, everything she despised in a man. But he was also offering her more money than she'd ever seen in her life. Enough to fix her car. Enough to keep her apartment. Enough to stop lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling while her bank account screamed in the red. The thought made her chest ache with a cocktail of shame and temptation. She scrubbed a hand down her face. "I can't believe I'm even considering this." Liam reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Whatever you decide, make sure it's on your terms. Don't let him bulldoze you." She managed a weak smile. "Me? Let him bulldoze me? Please. If anything, he should be afraid of me." But the bravado felt thin, like tissue paper over a crack in the wall. 2 days later, Aria found herself standing in front of her mirror. Hair brushed for once, apron replaced with her one decent blouse. The black folder Lucien had left sat open on her bed, the crisp contract staring up at her like a dare. She'd read it 3 times already. The salary was so high it almost looked like a typo. The benefits list was longer than any Christmas wish list she'd ever written. And his number was there at the bottom, written in his sharp, deliberate handwriting. Her landlord's text flashed again in her memory. Her chest tightened. "God, I'm going to regret this," she muttered, grabbing the pen from her nightstand. She hovered for a moment, heart racing. Pride screamed at her to throw the papers into the trash. But survival whispered louder. With a shaky breath, she scrawled her name across the line. Aria Coles. The signature looked foreign on such an official document, like it belonged to someone braver or stupider than her. She set the pen down and blew out a long breath. "This doesn't mean I like you, Sterling," she muttered to the empty room. But deep down she knew. This was the beginning of something she couldn't take back. Chapter 4. First Day, First Clash. Aria stood in front of the glittering glass building of Sterling Corp., her stomach twisting. The skyscraper pierced the clouds, a monument to money and power. She adjusted the thrift store blazer she'd borrowed from Liam's sister, the sleeves too short and the shoulders swallowing her. Everyone who swept past her looked tailored, polished, dripping money. And then there was her, tugging nervously at a blouse that still had a faint coffee stain she hadn't been able to scrub out. The receptionist gave her a once over that could have sliced flesh. "Can I help you?" "Yes, Aria Lane. Mr. Sterling's assistant." The last word felt foreign on her tongue. The receptionist's brows shot up before she quickly masked her shock and pressed the phone to her ear. Moments later, a sleek woman in heels appeared to escort Aria upstairs. Every step she took echoed in her head. "You don't belong here. You don't belong here." But the moment she walked into Lucien Sterling's office, all those thoughts evaporated. Lucien sat behind his obsidian desk, a predator at rest. His suit was charcoal perfection, his tie knotted with surgical precision. He didn't look up right away, deliberately making her wait. Finally, his eyes lifted, those sharp storm-gray eyes that had haunted her since the diner. "You're late," he said smoothly. "I'm 10 minutes early." She crossed her arms, refusing to be cowed. His lips twitched as if he enjoyed the defiance. "Then you're late by my standards." The day spiraled from there. By noon, Aria had been dragged into a board meeting, surrounded by men in 3-piece suits and women with designer handbags worth more than her monthly rent. Lucien commanded the room with an iron fist. His voice clipped as he outlined a ruthless strategy, slashing half the company's smaller subsidiaries to funnel money into riskier but more profitable ventures. Aria couldn't hold her tongue. That's insane, she blurted. Heads snapped in her direction. You're talking about killing jobs. Real people's jobs, for what? A gamble. Silence descended like a bomb. No one, ever questioned Lucien Sterling in public. His jaw tightened. Excuse me. You heard me, she said, her voice shaking but steady. It's heartless. You don't build an empire by burning your foundation. The room went still, like the pause before a storm. Lucien's gaze cut across the table, pinning her where she sat. His voice was calm, too calm. Meeting adjourned. Everyone scrambled to pack their papers, relief etched into their faces as they fled the tension. Moments later, Lucien stalked into his office. His stride a controlled storm. Aria followed, bracing herself. The door slammed shut. He spun, his hand shooting out to grip her arm. Not painfully, but firmly enough to remind her of the power coiled beneath his suit. He dragged her closer until she was staring up at him, her pulse hammering. You don't open your mouth in my boardroom unless I tell you to, he hissed, his voice like velvet over steel. If you want to survive here, you play by my rules. Understand? Aria's breath caught, but her chin tilted upward. Or what? You'll fire me. Please. You don't scare me, Sterling. His eyes darkened, and for a fraction of a second, something flickered there. Frustration, hunger, maybe both. His grip tightened just slightly, his voice a low growl. You should be scared, Aria. Chapter 5. Tension rises. If Aria thought the boardroom disaster was the worst of it, she was wrong. 2 days later, she found herself shoved into a whirlwind of suits, cameras, and flashing lights. Sterling Corp's quarterly press conference was a battlefield where Lucien reigned supreme. His armor a perfectly tailored suit, and his weapon a tongue sharp enough to slice through steel. Aria stood just off stage, clutching a stack of briefing notes she barely understood. Her job was to hand him what he needed when he needed it. Nothing more. But things unraveled fast. Halfway through the conference, a reporter lobbed a question that wasn't on the prep sheet. Mr. Sterling, rumors suggest Sterling Corp is considering a merger with Renault Global. How do you respond to accusations that this would create an unfair monopoly? Lucien's mask cracked for the first time. His jaw ticked, and in that brief silence, the reporters pounced, shouting, pressing, demanding answers. Aria's pulse spiked. She could see it, the faint sheen of sweat threatening his perfect composure. The wolf was cornered. And then, before she could think, she stepped forward. Mr. Sterling already addressed that in our internal projections, she said. Her voice steady despite the cameras swiveling toward her. The focus isn't on eliminating competition, but on strengthening global partnerships to create more opportunities and jobs. Isn't that what everyone in this room wants? A ripple of murmurs spread. The question lost its bite. Lucien shot her a look that could have melted steel. For once, though, it wasn't anger. It was something sharper. Controlled fire. He recovered instantly, nodding toward her like it had all been planned. Exactly. My assistant put it perfectly. Next question. The rest of the press conference ran smooth as glass. Backstage, though, the tension boiled over. What the hell was that? Lucien growled, cornering her against a wall once they were out of sight. His voice was low, dangerous, but not quite furious. Aria crossed her arms, chin high. That was me saving your ass. You froze out there. His eyes narrowed. I don't freeze. Well, you did, she shot back. And you're welcome, by the way. For a long, dangerous moment, neither spoke. The air between them was thick, humming with electricity. His gaze dipped, not at her defiance this time but at her lips. Just a flicker, quick enough that she almost doubted it. Almost. Careful, Aria, he murmured, stepping closer, lowering his voice until his breath ghosted against her ear. You don't want to play a game you can't finish. Her heart thundered. She wanted to shove him away. She wanted to drag him closer. Instead, she slipped sideways out of his trap, brushing past him with a mutter. I'll play however I damn well please. That night, they left the building later than usual. Lucien had demanded she rewrite a press release 3 times, as if punishing her for outshining him earlier. Aria didn't mind. If anything, it only fed her stubborn streak. When they finally stepped into the private elevator, silence hung heavy. The doors slid shut. The elevator jolted, and suddenly she stumbled forward. His arm shot out, catching her against his chest. Time froze. Her palms pressed against the hard planes of his torso. His hand gripped her waist firmly, holding her steady. Too steady. Neither moved. Neither breathed. The air thickened, her senses drowning in the clean, expensive scent of him. She looked up, and found his gaze already locked on hers, intense and unblinking. For one terrifying, exhilarating second, the world shrank to just that stare, just that touch. The elevator chimed. Both of them jerked back as though burned, straightening as the doors opened. A woman in a pencil skirt stepped in, oblivious to the storm raging between them. Aria smoothed her blouse, her cheeks hot. Lucien adjusted his cufflinks, his expression a flawless mask. Neither spoke. But when the elevator finally opened on the ground floor, Aria caught his reflection in the mirrored walls. His eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. Chapter 6. The dinner party. Aria stared at the dress draped over her bed. Deep sapphire silk, sleek and backless, a designer label she couldn't even pronounce. "You're not serious," she muttered, picking up Lucien Sterling's handwritten note attached to it. "Wear this. PM, don't embarrass me." Her first instinct was to burn it. Her second was to laugh. But her third, the one she hated most, was curiosity. By 7:30, Liam was pacing her tiny apartment like a worried parent. A dinner party. With billionaires. "Aria, this isn't your world." "No kidding," she sighed, zipping herself into the dress. "But apparently it's my job now." When the car arrived, a sleek black Maybach, she climbed in, bracing herself. Lucien was already inside, immaculate in his tuxedo. His eyes flicked over her once, slow and deliberate. A flash of something unreadable darkened his gaze before his expression reset to stone. "You clean up," he said flatly, as if complimenting her would kill him. "And you're still an ass in a tux," she shot back. His lips curved, just barely, but he didn't respond. The dinner party was held in a chandeliered ballroom dripping with excess. Gold trim. Crystal glasses. Waiters who glided like shadows. Aria's heels clicked nervously against marble as Lucien escorted her inside. Every head turned. Whispers rippled like wildfire. "Who's she? Too young. Too cheap. Not his type." At their table, a brunette socialite with lips too red and diamonds too bright leaned close to Lucien, ignoring Aria completely. "Lucien, darling, I didn't know you'd taken to bringing strays." Aria's jaw clenched. Lucien's smirk was faint, as though he was waiting to see if she'd crumble. Aria leaned forward, her smile sugary sweet. "Stray. That's rich coming from someone who looks like they wandered out of a bad soap opera." The table went silent. The socialite's painted smile faltered. "Excuse me." "Oh, don't worry," Aria said lightly, sipping her champagne as though she did this every night. "Some people buy taste. Others just rent it." A stifled laugh came from the far end of the table. Then another. The socialite's cheeks turned crimson as she sputtered into silence. Lucien's expression didn't shift, but his eyes. God. His eyes burned into Aria like a storm contained behind glass. The rest of the dinner unfolded like a play she hadn't rehearsed for, but Aria handled it with sharp wit and sharper smiles. Every barb thrown her way, she parried with ease. She wasn't just surviving. She was winning. By the end of the evening, as they slipped into the waiting car, the silence was deafening. Aria folded her arms. "Well, was that up to Sterling standards, or should I curtsy next time?" Lucien didn't answer right away. He sat in the dim glow of the car's interior, his profile cut from shadow and steel. Finally he turned, leaning just slightly closer. "You shocked them," he said quietly. "You shocked me." "Good," she muttered, staring out the window. "Good." His voice dipped lower, closer, until she could feel the warmth of his breath near her ear. "You should infuriate me, Aria. And you do. But why?" His words lingered, heavy, dangerous. "Why do I want to kiss you instead?" The car jolted over a bump, snapping the moment in half. Aria shifted away, her pulse hammering, her lips parting with words she didn't dare speak. His eyes stayed locked on her, unblinking, as though daring her to give in first. Chapter 7, Cracks in the Armor. Aria hadn't meant to snoop. Maybe she had. It started when Lucien left his office for a call and she noticed the file on his desk. Not contracts, not mergers. Just a slim folder stamped with the name of a children's hospital across town. She flipped it open, expecting more corporate red tape. Instead she found receipts. Massive donations. Equipment paid for. Entire wings renovated. All signed with his name, but buried under layers of shell companies. He wasn't looking for publicity. He was hiding it. Her brows knitted. Why would the man who tears down board members with a single glare care about sick kids? Later that week she saw it again. They were leaving a meeting when Lucien spotted a street violinist outside Sterling Tower. He paused just for a second and slipped a folded bill into the case. Aria caught the number on it. 100. And no one else noticed. He carried on, barking orders into his phone, as though he hadn't just cracked his own armor in plain sight. That night, long after the office emptied, Aria stayed behind to finish transcribing notes. Lucien was still in his glass-walled office, the skyline of the city glowing like fire behind him. His jacket was off, his shirt sleeves rolled, his tie tugged loose. She should have looked away. She should have kept typing. But she couldn't. There was something magnetic about him in these quiet hours. The way his usual sharpness dulled, the way the weight of the empire pressed down on him when no one else was watching. He looked human. She leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, just watching. Lucien finally noticed her. His eyes lifted, storm gray locking onto hers. But instead of the usual clipped demand, he simply leaned back in his chair, studying her. A slow, dangerous smile tugged at his mouth. "What do you see when you look at me, Aria?" The air shifted. Heavy. Electric. Her throat went dry. She could lie. She could make a joke, deflect like she always did. But standing there, with the city lights casting him in shadow and gold, her chest tightened with an honesty she didn't want to feel. She opened her mouth to answer, only for him to stand, closing the space between them with deliberate steps. His question still hung between them, burning. Chapter 8. First Betrayal of Trust. The moment Lucien Sterling entered the building, the air shifted. Aria had been balancing 2 trays of coffee for Lucien's executives when the elevator doors opened, and out stepped a woman who looked like she had stepped straight out of an old money painting. Her hair was a glossy sweep of chestnut, pinned by diamond clips that probably cost more than Aria's rent for a year. Her gown, if one could even call it that, was an elegant sheath of ivory silk that whispered class with every step. But it wasn't just the outfit. It was the way the room stilled around her, as though even the walls knew better than to offend her. "Vivian," Lucien said smoothly from across the hall, rising from his office chair. Aria froze. Vivian. His stepmother. She'd heard the name in whispers around the office, always laced with equal parts respect and fear. "My dear," Vivian purred, brushing Lucien's cheek with a kiss, though her eyes never left Aria. They swept over her quickly, head to toe, leaving a sting in their wake. "And this must be the assistant." Her smile was practiced perfection, but her tone dripped honeyed venom. So very unpolished. Aria's fists tightened around the tray. She wanted to snap back, but she caught Lucien's sharp glance, a silent order to hold her tongue. For once she obeyed. Vivian smirked, clearly satisfied. "Don't look so nervous, girl. Everyone starts somewhere. Even strays can learn to heal." Aria bit her tongue so hard she tasted blood. Later that night, Aria returned to Lucien's office to drop off documents, only to find the door half open. Voices drifted through the crack. "She doesn't belong here, Lucien," Vivian's voice, low and deliberate. "She's dangerous." Lucien chuckled darkly. "She's an assistant, Vivian. Don't tell me you're threatened by a waitress. You think I don't see it? She makes you careless. Weak." Vivian's tone sharpened. "You've built an empire out of control. And that girl, she'll unravel it. Get rid of her, or she'll ruin everything." Aria's chest tightened. Ruin everything. What did that even mean? She pressed back against the wall, pulse racing. Every instinct screamed at her to run before they caught her listening. Meanwhile, outside Sterling Tower, Liam was locking up the diner where he worked part-time. He had just tugged his hoodie tighter against the evening chill when a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down. "Mr. Liam Walker." The voice was velvet-wrapped steel. Liam stiffened. "Who's asking?" Vivian leaned slightly into the light, her diamond earrings catching the glow. "A friend." Liam's gut twisted. Nothing about her smile looked friendly. "What do you want?" "I want to help Aria," she said smoothly. "But she's walking into fire, and she doesn't see it." "You do, don't you? You've always been the protective one." Liam frowned. "If this is about her job, she can handle herself." "Can she?" Vivian's brow arched. "You don't know Lucien the way I do. Men like him devour girls like her. Chew them up. Leave them broken. Unless, of course, someone close to her guides her away." Liam's fists curled at his sides. "She doesn't need your kind of guiding." Vivian's laugh was low, chilling. "Stubborn. I like that. But remember, dear, loyalty has a price. And debts have a way of catching up." Her words slithered under his skin. Liam's face hardened, but inside, panic sparked. She shouldn't know about the rent he was behind on, or the hospital bills he hadn't told Aria about. "I don't want your help," he bit out. Vivian tilted her head, studying him like prey she'd eventually corner. "We'll see." The car slid away, leaving Liam in the cold with his heart pounding, sweat slicking his palms despite the night air. Later, when Aria came home, she spotted Vivian's car pulling away from the curb. Her stomach dropped. "Who was that?" she asked, dropping her keys onto the counter. "No one," Liam said too quickly, tugging his hoodie off. His voice was tight, his smile forced. "Liam." She stepped closer, her instincts buzzing. "What did she want?" He shook his head. "Don't worry about it. Just promise me you'll be careful around Sterling, okay?" Aria's brows knit. What's that supposed to mean? But Liam wouldn't meet her eyes. That night, as Aria lay awake, Vivian's words replayed in her mind like a curse. "Get rid of the girl or she'll ruin everything." And though Aria didn't know it yet, the poison Vivian planted in Liam had already begun to take root. In his empty room, Liam scrolled through overdue bills on his phone, Vivian's voice echoing like temptation. "Loyalty has a price." Chapter 9: Heat of the Moment. The storm rolled in slowly at first, distant thunder grumbling over the city. By the time the last of the employees left Sterling Corp, lightning split the skyline and sheets of rain hammered against the glass windows of Lucien's top-floor office. Aria shoved a stack of files into the cabinet, muttering under her breath. Who schedules a meeting this late anyway? Billionaires clearly don't believe in sleep. Lucien looked up from behind his desk. His jaw tight, tie loosened but still impeccably composed. "If you spent less time complaining and more time focusing, you'd realize I'm not asking for your opinion, Aria." She turned to him, hand on her hip, eyes flashing. "Right. Because you're always right and everyone else is just decoration. God forbid someone challenges the mighty Lucien Sterling." His gaze sharpened, a storm within a storm. "You think you've figured me out after what, weeks? You know nothing about me." "Maybe not," she shot back, stepping closer, refusing to let his presence push her down. "But I know this. Underneath all the suits and arrogance, you're terrified of being human. Terrified that if you let people in, they'll see you bleed like the rest of us." The room went quiet except for the howl of the wind outside. His jaw flexed, and for once, he didn't fire back immediately. The storm outside cracked, plunging the office into darkness as the power cut. Aria froze. "Oh, perfect." Emergency lights flickered dimly in the hall, but his office remained swallowed in shadows. Lucien opened a drawer, retrieved a flashlight, and clicked it on. The beam cut across his sharp features, making him look even more dangerous. "Stay close," he said curtly. "I don't take orders. Then stumble around in the dark for all I care," he muttered, moving toward the backup systems. She followed anyway, muttering curses under her breath. When the beam wavered, their hands brushed as both reached to steady it. Aria flinched, but the spark that zipped up her arm was undeniable. Lucien noticed. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. "You're reckless," he murmured, voice lower now, intimate despite the chaos outside. "And you're insufferable," she whispered, but her voice trembled, betraying her. Lightning flashed again, illuminating how close they stood. His chest nearly pressed to hers, her breath hitched, and something raw passed between them. Months of sharp words, stolen glances, and dangerous tension. Before she could think, he moved. His hand slid around her waist, pulling her against him, and his mouth crushed down on hers. The kiss was fierce, unyielding, born from anger as much as desire. She gasped against him, her fingers tangling in his shirt, clutching him like she hated him for it and hated herself more for wanting it. Lucien deepened the kiss, tasting her with a hunger that startled them both. His control, the weapon he always wielded, fractured, leaving only raw need. When he finally tore his lips away, his breath was ragged, his forehead pressing to hers. For a long moment they stood there in the darkness, caught between the storm outside and the storm inside them. "You're dangerous, Aria," he whispered hoarsely, his voice vibrating against her lips. "More dangerous than you know." Her chest rose and fell, her hand still gripping his shirt. She wanted to demand what he meant, wanted to slap him for kissing her like that, and kiss him again all at once. But Lucien released her suddenly, stepping back as though burned. The flashlight beam swung wildly before settling on the wall, his broad back now to her. And though her lips still tingled from his kiss, the words he left her with carved deeper than she expected. Chapter 10: The Warning. Aria shut down her computer with a sigh, her fingers lingering on the keyboard longer than they should. The storm from the night before had left her rattled, not because of the thunder, not even because of the blackout, but because of him. Because Lucien Sterling had kissed her. Her lips still tingled with the ghost of it, and her mind kept looping back to the feel of his hand on her waist, the raw intensity in his eyes before he pulled away. She wanted to hate him for it, wanted to laugh it off as a mistake, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw him leaning toward her in the dark, the storm raging around them as if the whole world had conspired to lock them together. She shoved the thought away, grabbed her bag, and headed for the lobby. The building was quieter than usual, most of the staff already gone home. But as the glass doors slid open, she froze. Liam was leaning against the railing outside Sterling Corp., a takeout bag dangling from his hand. His hood was up, his shoulders tense like he'd been waiting a while. "Aria," he called, straightening when he spotted her. She forced a smile. "You stalking me now? If you wanted to hang out, you could have just texted." He didn't smile back. He offered her the bag. "Brought you food. Figured you'd be too busy to eat." Her chest softened at the gesture, but something about the tightness in his eyes set her on edge. She took the bag anyway. "Thanks. I needed this." They started walking toward the curb together. Liam was quiet at first, then he finally said, "You've been spending a lot of time with him." Aria frowned. "If you mean Lucien, he's my boss. Of course I'm spending time with him." Liam's jaw tightened. Bosses don't look at their assistants the way he looks at you. Her pulse spiked. She kept her tone light. And how does he look at me exactly? Like you're something he wants to own. His voice was sharp, colder than she'd ever heard it. Aria, men like Lucien Sterling don't let people close unless they're getting something out of it. He's dangerous. She stopped walking, narrowing her eyes. What's this really about, Liam? Because you sound less like my best friend and more like a jealous boyfriend. Color rose in his face, but his gaze didn't falter. I'm not jealous. I'm trying to protect you. There are things about him, about his family, that you don't understand. If you keep working for him, you're going to get hurt. Her stomach twisted. She searched his face. And how do you know so much about him? For a fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, hesitation, maybe both. He looked away too quickly, shoving his hands into his pockets. You hear things. People talk. That family has enemies. Aria studied him, unease prickling her skin. Liam had always been steady, unshakable. Now his voice carried a weight, like he wasn't telling her everything. Before she could press further, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. Tight, secretive. Without answering, he slid it back into his pocket. Aria's eyes narrowed. Who was that? Doesn't matter. He forced a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. Just promise me, Aria. Don't trust him. Please. Her throat went dry. She wanted to demand answers, but the desperation in his voice tangled with her own doubts, silencing her. Finally she muttered, I can take care of myself. That's what I'm afraid of, he murmured. They parted ways at the corner. Aria watched him go, unease twisting her insides. His warning rang in her ears, echoing louder than the rain-soaked streets around her. Meanwhile, Lucien sat in his penthouse office. The city sprawled beneath him in glittering lights. He hadn't left with the others. He never did. Nights like this were easier when he drowned himself in work. But tonight work wasn't enough. Not when his mind kept replaying Aria's mouth on his, the way she'd clutched him like she wanted to shove him away and pull him closer all at once. He rubbed a hand across his face, growling under his breath. She's a distraction. A knock at the door. His head of security stepped in, followed by a lean man in a grey suit carrying a thick, sealed envelope. The investigator set it on Lucien's desk. Everything you asked for. Full background, from birth records to employment history. Lucien dismissed them with a nod. When the door clicked shut, silence fell again. He stared at the envelope. For days, he'd told himself it was routine. Precaution. He ran checks on everyone close to him. Assistants, advisors, even temporary staff. That was all this was. But his hand hesitated when it hovered over the envelope. He wasn't supposed to care what it contained. He wasn't supposed to feel this dread. Finally, he picked it up, breaking the wax seal with his thumb. The sound seemed to echo in the quiet office. He didn't open it right away. He just sat there, the envelope heavy in his hands, his face carved into an unreadable mask. Somewhere outside in the city, Aria walked home with Liam's warning circling her mind. Don't trust him. And inside Sterling Tower, Lucien Sterling was about to uncover the one truth that could shatter them both. Thanks for listening to Lamlam Audiobooks. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes. Stay tuned. Until next time, keep listening.